Hello guys, Crispy here and welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing the Koorui 24E3 affordable gaming monitor. This is a 24-inch 1080p 165Hz monitor with FreeSync premium technology, which is also compatible with G-Sync. I am using an NVIDIA card here in this video and it was G-Sync compatible. And right now during the Prime days, it's sitting at $106 US. Like, with these specs, it must be a steal, right? So naturally, I thought they must have cut a lot of corners to achieve this price point. Maybe the colors aren't really that great, maybe there's a ton of ghosting, but no. I was actually really surprised. Turns out, cheap monitors are getting really good. Let's dive in, shall we? First things first, in the box you'll find the stand, which is very easy to put together, an instructions manual, it's manual, Crisp, everybody knows that, the AC power adapter, and a single DisplayPort cable. Oh, and I almost forgot, you also find the monitor itself, obviously. Let's talk about the important things now. The colors are first. I used this Calibrite tool to measure them with DisplayCal 3, and with out-of-the-box settings, it was pretty accurate, as you can see, at least for gaming and general use. I just needed to adjust the brightness slightly from the default 90 value, and it showed some green text, which is what you want there. Then I let the test run for about like 20 minutes to half an hour, and the results were in. It gave us a reading of roughly 95% of sRGB, which is a bit lower than the specified 99% from them, so there's that. But while gaming, I didn't really see any lack of color or anything. It was actually really vibrant and really pretty to look at. That said, it's probably not geared towards professional work, but this is strictly a gaming monitor anyways. I mean, 24 inches at 1080p isn't really that great for photo editing or video editing, right? In terms of brightness, I recorded a maximum of 252 nits, which is just as advertised, 250 nits. It doesn't get very bright, but I still didn't have a problem seeing things and playing games even with my headlights pointed directly at the monitor. And while gaming at night with the lights turned off, I actually needed to turn it down a little bit in the brightness slider because it was a little bit too bright for my taste, at least. So it's definitely passable, although not too bright whatsoever. Forget about HDR and stuff like that. You're not gonna get that in a monitor like this, but it's not expected anyways. Response times are up next, my friends, and I got some great news right here. I used an LDAT sensor sent by NVIDIA. This is great for testing gray-to-gray response time. Thanks guys at NVIDIA, by the way. And with out-of-the-box settings, it recorded 5.4 milliseconds of gray-to-gray response time, which isn't the 1 millisecond response time that everybody advertises for some reason, but they never are 1 milliseconds, almost. Okay, there are a few exceptions out there with more expensive monitors and stuff, but yeah, this is what we get. 5.4 milliseconds translates into a pretty fast response time still, and I struggled to see any ghosting or motion blur while playing some games. By the way, the motion blur that you see in this video, in the footage of the games, is because of the camera, not the monitor. I need a new camera. Now, this is super great news because I really thought this would be where a monitor like this, at this price point, would struggle a lot. And that's true for many VA panels out there at these prices. But this one with the IPS monitor, it's really good in this regard. I'm really impressed. I also tested the overdrive settings of the monitor, and set to normal, it reduced the response time to 3.4 milliseconds, but it had 13.1% overshoot, and I noticed it while playing some Valorant. It wasn't too distracting, so I could see some people preferring the overdrive set to normal, and if you're interested in the extreme overdrive setting, well, things go south. Of course, the response times are a little bit better, with 2.6 milliseconds this time, but it had 27.5% overshoot. It was really noticeable this time. For contrast, I still haven't managed to make it work for some reason. Supposedly, the tool that I have to see the color accuracy and stuff reports on contrast as well, but it didn't work. I don't know. To my eyes, it looks like every other IPS monitor. It's not too far off of more expensive monitors that use this technology, so that's great. I can see that it's not like super dark in dark areas, like in Cyberpunk 2077, for example. The darker areas are more of like a really dark gray, but that's completely normal, and I'm probably spoiled by a huge OLED LGC2. It's what I use on the daily, so yeah, going back to an IPS, of course I would notice that a lot more. But I think for the majority of people that end up picking up this monitor, this is not gonna be a deal breaker whatsoever. Onto Backlight Bleed, it's exaggerated here because of the camera settings, so I could pick it up properly, but it's alright. This is also very normal for an IPS panel. I didn't really notice any major bleed, and while gaming I didn't notice it at all, so that's great. Moving on to build quality. It is all plastic, super lightweight. It makes me look very strong, and I am not, my friends. Unfortunately, I am not. It wobbles quite a bit if you hit it, but if you're just punching the table because you're frustrated because you die too much in Valorant, well, it's not going to be a problem. It doesn't really wobble there. It doesn't creak at all, which is nice to see for an old plastic build as well. So yeah, it feels sturdy, although really lightweight, as I told you. Now the stand is probably where they cut the most corners. It only has tilt adjustment, no swivel, no height adjustment. But again, it's not a deal breaker at this price point, I believe. You could just put a little box below it, like a motherboard box or a GPU box that you probably have lying around. And yeah, there's your height adjustment. And also, quality control might not be amazing actually, because I received a couple of monitors for review first, a 27-inch 1440p and this one, and both had dead pixels. Good thing is they instantly replaced them, and the next couple of monitors were pin perfect. Pin perfect? Why would pins be perfect? I don't know. Now, they didn't only replace my units because I am a reviewer. They actually said that their RMA process covers any dead pixels, so if you buy a monitor from Koorui and it has one dead pixel, they will replace it. Talking about design next, I find the front of the display very appealing. It's super minimalistic. The logo is like stealthy looking right there. On the back, things are a bit different with some red gaming accents and an aggressive design, but I think it actually works quite well, and you're not gonna really see the back of your monitor too often, so it's fine, even if you don't like it, I guess. While we're on the back of the monitor, this is where all of the action stands. No pun intended. You got a Vesa mount, all of the ports under it with a display port, 2 HDMI 1.4 connections, the headphone jack, which sounds pretty bad actually, and the AC power port. Lastly, all the way on the bottom stands the joystick. Yes guys, they actually put a little joystick in this very cheap monitor. There's none of that 4-button crap that makes it hard to navigate on the on-screen display. This works really well. I love to see the joystick there. Nice. And talking about that on-screen display, well, it shows pretty much everything that you're used to seeing in monitors, you know? There's a FreeSync switch, overdrive settings, RGB settings that you can adjust, cheat crosshairs as well, all of that good stuff. The only thing missing that I actually like to have seen is a sharpness slider. Don't get me wrong, it's sharp out of the box, but you know, a little bit of an adjustment would be nice for those of you who prefer like less sharp or more sharpness. And finally, the gaming experience. I found it really adequate for esports, for people who don't want to splurge on a gaming monitor. This will work quite nicely in like CSGO and Valorant and Dota 2s of the world, Overwatches. What's that? Nobody plays Overwatch anymore? Huh. Well, Overwatch in CSGO, you know, the thing where you see the cheaters and report them. That's what I meant. And honestly, 2014 or 2015 El Crespo would be super stoked with something like this. I got to Supreme Master First Class in CSGO back then, and I was playing on a 60 Hz monitor. Having 165 with this response time, would be top notch for me at least. So I think a lot of people will enjoy a monitor like this for esports, although probably not pros. Moving on to something that I actually play well, Battlefield 2042 worked pretty well in my opinion. It's a little bit blurry because of the forced TAA and the 1080p resolution. I'm not used to that, you know, I'm used to 4K gaming, so it looks much better. But for a casual player, it's completely fine, and even if you want to get a little bit competitive in it, it's also very, very good. I actually ended up killing 22 people and dying twice or something like that. It was a really good run in this one. Next is a beautiful story-driven title, Red Dead Redemption 2. This looked a little bit muddy because of the 1080p resolution. Again, it is not really a problem for somebody who's not used to higher resolution panels. It will look great, but this game also has some TAA, and it's not the greatest implementation. It's not really the monitor's fault, in my opinion. It's just the TAA in recent titles is not great. Still, the colors really popped, and it was an enjoyable experience overall, and we got to see Jack as well. That was an amazing and beautiful moment in this video. Oh yes, I was so happy. Almost as good as the end of the CSGO match, where I won an Emerald Pinstripe AK. Moving on to Forza Horizon 5, it looked great, especially with DLAA on top of the native 1080p resolution. DLAA made the game look a little bit sharper, and in my opinion, it actually does look better than native in this particular title. It's not the same for every game, but yeah, that's the experience in Forza. Definitely good looking. And lastly, in Cyberpunk 2077, you can enjoy some decent contrast with the dark areas and neon lights of Night City. This one was a little bit blurry as well because I enabled frame generation and quality DLSS, but it was still very passable, and it allowed me to use the 165Hz monitor in this game, maxed out even with ray tracing enabled on my 4070 Ti that I used throughout this video. That was really smooth, and of course we needed to kill Bob in this one as well, because we always do. And that's been it for this one. I am really happy with this monitor's performance right here, if you can't tell. And after being stuck on the high end for so long, it was nice to go back to a really cheap entry-level 1080p monitor that's actually not too entry-level because it performs great. I think a lot of people looking for a 1080p monitor in this price point will be very happy with this one. With that said, thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be back with another monitor review, the 27-inch 1440p from Koorui next week, probably. And I hope you enjoyed. Spend responsibly during these Prime days, and I'll catch you in the next one very soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.